want to run a marathon or repair a broken relationship. Whatever your big goal is, the temptation is to expect to go straight from here to here, or from here to here. The reality is, there are a lot of small steps between big decisions and big results. Challenges and obstacles await. At some point, you might even want to quit. But stand firm. Don't be disappointed with slow progress. Don't be overwhelmed by the destination. Rather, focus on what you can do today. Skip dessert. Read a chapter. Go for a run. Make a phone call. The more difficult the journey, the more rewarding the destination. And it can all start today with just one small step.
Happy Sabbath, everyone. Wow, you guys are not happy today, huh? I'll say it one more time. Happy Sabbath, everyone. Happy Sabbath. All right, much better. Okay, so we're going to start a new sermon series. It's going to be called One Small Step. So, since it is the new year, I want to ask you guys, do you guys have a New Year's resolution this year? Okay, who wants to share their New Year's resolution? Okay, Aaron.
Lose more weight.
Lose more weight, yes. Yes, we all need to lose more weight, absolutely. Anybody else? Okay, Jonah. Go on iPad 200 days. Wow, that's a goal. All right. So let me tell you what my New Year's resolution was last year and what my New Year's resolution is this year. So last year, 2018, my New Year's resolution, number 1, lose 30 pounds. You guys think I made it? Failed. Okay. Number 2, no ice cream. Failed. As you guys know, I love my ice cream. Start podcast. Okay, this one failed, but kind of, because we started our church podcast, so kind of, but I wanted to start my own podcast, so failed. Read 25 books. I actually succeeded in this one. I actually read 30 books. Thank you. 1 out of 4. And then one of the things I wanted to do also was bring someone to Jesus. This one, I'm still actually not sure. Just because, I didn't baptize anybody or anything, but you never know. The things I did this year and where it's going to carry on. Okay, so 2019, New Year's resolution. Lose 20 pounds. It was 30 last year. More realistic goal, 20 pounds. I'm going to try to read 40 books this year. Okay. And then, same goal. As you see, the ice cream thing, I took it away because I already failed. So that's for 2020. And number 3 is still bring someone to Jesus. Normally, when we're talking about New Year's resolution, they say there's 2 types of people. The first type of person is what we call young and foolish. Okay? So younger people, maybe like Jonah and Aaron. When we're young, we go, I got this. Okay? I have a goal that I have, and I want to make sure that I fulfill it. Right? And so when you're young, you're foolish, and you try a lot of new things, you have a lot of energy, you have a lot of new hope. Right? But another reason why young people, or they have this expression, young and foolish, is because young people, they think it's not maybe something they're doing, but it's something else. So for example, they go, oh, I've been trying hard, but maybe it's my family's fault that I keep falling. Right? Or it's because I don't have a lot of money, or I don't have enough time, or I don't have a boyfriend or girlfriend. So, young and foolish, why? Because they always say, it's not my fault, but it's someone else's fault. Second type of people when it comes to New Year's resolution, they say, is old and disillusioned. So this is kind of the phase that you go through. When you're younger, you have a lot of energy, you're blaming people, or you go, the circumstances are not right. I don't have enough money, my kids are too young, I don't have enough time. But as you grow older and older and older, you actually start realizing, oh, it's actually not money that's actually the problem. It's actually not the kids that are the problem. It's actually not even society that's the problem. But that is actually, I'm just lazy. Or I'm just not strong-willed. Or I just realized, like, I don't achieve anything. And so you start saying, you know, like, goals, New Year's resolution, I'm going to fall anyways. I'm going to eat ice cream anyways. I'm going to gain weight later anyways. I'm going to, like, what's the point? So normally people are at these two different spectrums where you are either young and foolish, okay, or you're old and disillusioned. Or maybe some of you guys, you grew up too fast, maybe you are still young, but you are disillusioned. Or maybe some of you who are older, but you're still foolish. Where do you think you are at? Do you think you are young and foolish when it comes to goals, your life expectations? Or are you old and disillusioned? Okay, where do you lie on the spectrum? Now, today, I'm going to offer you something where I think there could be actually a third way. And I'm going to call this way wise and mature. Okay? We have goals, we have places that we want to go to. But I think we can, instead of just being young and foolish, or just being old and disillusioned, I think we can be wise and mature. And so today, I'm going to share with you things from the Bible where it actually gives us wisdom and how to be mature and how we can take even just one step forward. So, I've been thinking about this sermon series for actually quite a while. And the reason is because, to share with you something personal, is a lot of people think that, okay, it's either two different cases. A lot of people think pastors don't struggle at all. Like, being a pastor, it's like the easiest job in the world. Like, basically, like, I don't know if you guys ever said this before, but when I was younger, I used to tell my pastor, like, what do you do during the week? Right? Like, you just come, like, once a week and just give a sermon and, like, what do you do during the week kind of a thing? There's that type of people. And other type of people are like, dude, I don't know how you do it. But the thing is, most of the people who are here, they get pastoring is so hard. They don't actually realize, like, meeting people, giving Bible study, being rejected, and these kind of things, that's actually the easy part about being a pastor. What people actually don't realize about being a pastor, the real difficulty about being a pastor and why pastors really, really burn out and they quit and they go to other jobs, the reason why that happens is actually not because we have to go and like we don't get paid a lot or these kind of things. It's actually because of the mental like battle that you go through every single day of your life. And what do I mean by that? Imagine if you're a PT, like a physical trainer, or not PT, like a gym trainer. What did they call it? Personal trainer, right? PT, right? Oh, a personal trainer. So imagine you're helping somebody to lose weight or get fit every single day. Now, of course, that PT could still be overweight and fat, but every time he looks at the mirror, he's going to think, my job is to help people get more fit. If I am not fit, I feel like a hypocrite. Okay? There's that mental stress. And that's exactly what pastors have to go through every single day. Every single day, whether I like it or not, I have to look myself in the mirror. For you guys, some of you guys can say, okay, I have to come to church, I have to listen to Gideon, okay, blast me for one day. And some of you guys say, dude, you have been throwing spears at me all the time whenever I come to church. Okay? You go through that once a week, maybe an hour, maybe 30 minutes at the most. I go through it every single day of my life. And so, I thought to myself, I am someone who's supposed to teach other people how to get closer to God. But I look at my life, I look at some of the diaries I wrote, I realize something. I realize I struggle with the same exact thing. I struggle with the same temptations. I actually go through this vicious cycle where I'm spiritual, I'm holding on to God because I have to give a sermon, or I have to be up front in front of people. And then I start not caring. I start thinking about just myself. I start being very selfish, very impatient towards grace. And I realize this is nothing new. This is not just something recent struggle. This is something that I realize I've been struggling for such a long time. Why is it that I stay lukewarm? Why is it that I'm not spiritually growing? And I started thinking, okay, maybe this is just the way it is. Maybe this is like how we're supposed to live. Like just always like kind of like a defeated, despondent spiritual life. Maybe this is just our sinfulness and these things, like we're just sinful and we're just going to struggle all of our lives. But what I don't really understand is when I read the Bible, I don't see that. I don't see a God who leaves his people abandoned. I don't see a God who just lays dead, but I see a God who's actually resurrecting. So how is it possible that if God is, like the Bible describes, all-powerful, all-knowing, that I live such a defeated life? How is it that I struggle with the same thing over and over and over and over again? How is it that it's okay for us, okay? It became a church culture that we're okay being lukewarm. That we just acknowledge it, we see it so easily. I have said it so easily. And just expect that to be actually the norm and be okay with that. And that's why I'm really excited about this sermon series, because I realized, no, this is not how the Bible is telling us how we should live our lives. We should actually have victory in our lives. We serve a very, very high God, and we're sons and daughters of this loving God, this powerful God. Then we need to actually reflect that. We need to actually really see that in our lives as well. So, wherever you are, whether you are young and foolish, old and disillusioned, through this series, we're going to see how we can be wise and mature, and more importantly, how we can take just one step forward, just even small steps forward, and how we can actually become victorious in our spiritual walk. We're going to start today in Hebrews chapter 4, verse 14 through 16. Hebrews chapter 4, verse 14 through 16. Since then, we have a great high priest who have passed through the heavens, Jesus, the Son of God. Let us hold fast our confession. For we do not have a high priest who is unable to sympathize with our weakness, but one who in every respect has been tempted as we are, yet without sin. Let us then, with confidence, draw near to the throne of grace, that we may receive mercy and find grace to help in time of need. This is the word of God. Now, one of the things that you see right away is this idea that God is our high priest or God is another way to put it, maybe to use our vernacular, is our great counselor. Okay, great supporter. Okay, so let us come to him. Now, the thing is, that sounds very simple. That sounds very easy, and this is something that you've heard over and over again at church, but something that we actually do not do actually very well. What do I mean by this? Do you guys remember a couple of weeks ago, we had a week of prayer, and week of prayer, this guy came from Argentina, and he told us to spend time with God. He called it moments alone with God. So nothing really new idea, except he said when you pray, instead of trying to thank him or request things, for 20 minutes, don't do those things. Just talk to God. Okay? So for 20 minutes, don't ask for anything and don't thank God for anything. Again, not that those things are not important, but he basically says we have this very superficial relationship with God, where we come to him and we just go, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I want this, okay, bye. And he's saying, well, that's not what we do with our friends. That's not what we do with anybody. So why is it that we continue to do that in our prayers? So he said, I challenge you guys for 20 minutes every day, thank God, or don't thank God, and don't request anything. But after 20 minutes, go do this. Okay. So something I realized while I was doing this was this. And maybe some of you guys who tried it, maybe could resonate with me. I realized this. I say a lot of negative things to myself. I say things like this. I say, God, I'm sorry. I'm so messed up. I keep getting impatient. I'm not praying hard enough. I'm not studying hard enough. I'm not using my time wisely. I keep making the same mistakes over and over. When am I going to learn from my mistakes? And then you start saying nasty stuff to yourself. You say, dude, you're such a fake. You're so terrible. What are you doing? If church people knew the stuff you think about and stuff you do, they would never even listen to your sermons. Dude, you're such a horrible pastor. And I started thinking, okay, maybe I shouldn't be a pastor. Maybe I'm really not a Christian. Maybe I don't even know about this God thing. So you go on and on and on. Again, before I didn't really recognize this because I wasn't really speaking out loud. Oh, another thing that he told us was, as you find your secret place or when you're walking or having this 20-minute time with God, speak out loud, right? Don't just think in your mind, but actually say it out loud. And again, as I was doing this, I realized, oh wow, about 90% of the things I actually say in my prayer, it's actually very, very negative. It's like a mental punishment. And actually, I keep just getting more and more shameful and more guilty about myself. And this is one of the things that we, as Christians, or even if you're not a Christian, this is something that a lot of people actually do. We mentally punish ourselves. And the problem is, now, I'm not saying you should never feel guilty, you should never feel shame. But the thing is, we dwell there. We stay there. What Hebrews says is, if you continue to do that, you're going to become despondent, you're going to become discouraged, and you're going to quit. What he says, the wise thing to do, is what? Draw near to the throne of grace. So what it's essentially saying is stop focusing on yourself. Okay, you're going to make mistakes. You're going to fall. But don't stay within that sin or that temptation, that shame, and that guilt. Stop looking at yourself. This is what Ellen White actually says. She says, do not talk of your inefficiencies and your defects. When despair would seem to be sweeping over your soul, look to Jesus, saying, He lives to make intercession for me. Forget the things that are behind and believe the promise, I will come to you and abide with you. So essentially, what is she saying? She's not saying don't feel guilt, don't feel shame, because that's actually what we're going to feel all the time. Why? Because when we go in front of a perfect God, we're always going to feel guilty. We're always going to feel shameful. We're going to fall. We're going to make a mistake. So what it's not saying is don't make a mistake. But what it's saying is after you do make your mistake, don't dwell upon yourself. Don't think about, I should do better. I. Instead, stop with your eyes. And instead, look at Jesus. What happens, the reason is because there is no end to yourself. There is no end to self-criticism. And that's what I had to realize, is I'm saying so many negative things, but I have no solution. If I just look at myself, I have no self-will. I keep making the same mistakes over and over and over again. I myself, I don't have the solution. Why? Because the Bible tells you, and your own experience tells you, your desires, who you are, you're never going to be satisfied with who you are. Never. Okay? Your heart that you have is insatiable, which means it can never be satisfied. I go, okay, I need to, for example, a lot of modern psychology books, self-help books, they tell you, okay, stop thinking about negative things and just start thinking, just love yourself more and more and more. Feed yourself. Okay? Love yourself more. And I understand, we do need to actually have a very healthy sense of self-love, but we have to also recognize there's no end to that. I go, I need more time for myself. I spend time with myself, and I go, I actually need more time for myself. Or if I go, I need this amount of money, and then I'll be satisfied. But the more money I get, I'm not satisfied. If I get this kind of lady, or this kind of husband, then I'll be satisfied. But I realize there is no end of me. Me, and to refer to last week's sermon, the little Herod inside me just wants more and more and more. And so when I just focus on myself, there's no end. I'm never satisfied. I never find solution to myself. And so that's why Ellen White and Hebrews, the author of Hebrew, he says, stop looking at yourself. I understand you have guilt. I understand that you make mistakes. That you're going to fall, you're going to make mistakes. But stop looking at yourself. Instead, with confidence, go boldly in front of God. Because He's your solution. You do not have the solution. I do not have the solution. We do not have the solution. We have tried. It does not work. We have to surrender and we have to say, God, we come to you. So I want you guys to really try this out. Okay? Practice this at home. You're going to fall. You're going to fall into the same temptations. You're going to collapse, flop, screw up. And again, your first reaction is going to be, you dummy. You fool. Trust me. Okay? Try this at home. When you fall, when you feel guilty, all the things you're thinking about is going to be I. But instead, stop yourself. Stop. Stop that thought and say, I need to look to God. I do not have the solution. I need to think about what God is doing. And you'll be surprised how much peace and how much praise comes out. It's amazing. And that's why one of the things I've been doing when I do my moments alone with God in the morning, I actually do it when I'm walking, is before I would always be like, thank you God, and I need this. But now, as I'm thinking more about just God, I realize as I'm walking, without me even noticing it, I'm just singing songs. Praise just comes out of my heart naturally. Not because, it's praise time, let's all stand up, and not because it's worship time or these kind of things, but just naturally in my heart, because I realize I don't have the answer, because I realize I actually have someone who's going to save me, praise actually just comes out. And there's so much more peace within myself, knowing that I don't have the solution, knowing that there is a Savior. Second thing. So this is what it means to be wise. It's not to trust yourself, but to trust God. Second part. What does it mean to be actually mature? Since then, we have a great high priest who has passed through the heavens, Jesus. The Son of God, let us hold fast our confession. Confession meaning our beliefs. What's interesting here is it doesn't really say hold on to your feelings, but it says hold on to the things that you believe. Now, culture tells us that feeling is everything. Okay, you talk to people, and if you listen carefully, we use the word feeling quite a bit. Okay, maybe when I look at my sermon, I'd probably say the word feeling probably a couple of times, even through this sermon today. We use that word feeling a lot. Why? Because we have bought into this lie that feeling is truth. For example, have you guys heard something like this? Oh, but I have no feelings for her. What? I mean, isn't that being fake then? I don't feel God's presence. I don't feel spiritual. Being up here, I don't feel it. So aren't I being hypocritical? Aren't I being fake? If I smile at someone that I have zero feelings for. So we have bought into this lie that feeling equals truth. And so if we feel bad, if we don't like somebody, then we shouldn't act in other ways. Because that means we're being fake. But think about this. Because listen, try only working when you feel like working. Okay? Or try spending time with your kids only when you feel like it. Or your wife, your husband, boyfriend, girlfriend, friends. Try being nice to them only when you feel nice in your heart. Because, for me, if I did everything that I only failed, I would not be here today. Okay? I would be still sleeping. I would not have a job. I would probably not have a wife. I would not even have friends if I only acted only on my feelings. But we have bought into this lie that feeling is true. But actually, the truth is, and C.S. Lewis, he talks about this in Mere Christianity, he says, no, it's actually a sign of maturity when you do things even though feelings are not there. Okay. When we think of babies, what do? They do everything based on feelings. Okay? That's why that's why they always fight with each other. Okay? They never get along. They cry all the time. And when we say someone is being immature, that's what it is. That they based everything on feelings. Now, I'm not trying to say that feelings are bad. Feelings are great. But if we continue to say feelings equals truth, then our lives, we don't even do this in our lives. There's a lot of times where we do things despite our feelings. And this is what Hebrews is telling us. We need to be wise, and we need to also be mature. What does it mean? Being mature means despite your feelings, despite your guilt, despite your shame, despite your despondency, despite not feeling that spiritual high, you hold on to what God has said. What God has said. I don't feel worthy. I don't feel good. But the Bible tells me that Jesus loves me. I don't feel worthy. I don't feel forgiven. But Jesus continues to say, no, this is the exact reason why I have come. Ellen White, in Steps to Christ, says, do not wait to feel that you are whole, but say, I believe it. It is so. Not because I feel it, but because God has promised. And this is what it means to be mature. This is what it means to grow spiritually. It doesn't mean that we feel the spiritual high, or feel good every time I pray, or feel good every time I interact with people. Absolutely not. But it is to hold on. It is to hold tightly onto what God has said to us. If I look at myself, I feel unworthy. But I look at God who says, I'm still willing to die for you. When I see myself, I feel worthless. But Jesus says on the cross, no, you're worth so much more. This is what it means to be wise and mature. It is to stop looking at ourselves and look to the one who has a true view of who we are. It's to come boldly in front of God. It's not to be swayed because of feelings, not to be stuck with myself, but to hold on to truth and look to God. One step forward. One small step. Even if it's one little step, it's always difficult, right? It's always difficult. I always realize it. Every time I go to SoCal, I realize, man, traveling is so hard. Like before, I don't know how I did it when I was a younger kid. going from PUC to Southern California. Southern California is where my parents live. I'm like, I don't know how I did it, but now I grow old. Even like riding on the plane for even an hour, I'm like, I'm so tired. Because, it's easier when I sleep in my own bed. It's easier when I'm actually sleeping next to Grace. It's easier when I get to eat my diet food at home. Like, it's so much easier, and it's like so inconvenient. Because traveling, it takes a lot of sacrifice, and it takes a lot of effort. So even one step forward, one even small step, I know it's very difficult for us. Because traveling, it's always taking sacrifice. But this is when we think about Jesus. Think about his travel here to earth and on earth. It's not an easy thing for an all-powerful God to become a fragile little baby. It wasn't a comfortable thing. It wasn't an easy thing. It's not an easy thing for an all-knowing God to deal with ignorant human beings and actually walk with them and actually try to discipline them or disciple them, and teach them and live with them. It wasn't an easy thing for God to love people who were spitting on him, yelling at him, ridiculing him, and mocking him. And it is definitely not an easy thing for God when he traveled all the way to your heart and see it's so cold and so unresponsive. But one thing we do see is on the cross, when people are ridiculing him, mocking him, spitting at him, yelling at him, we see that God, Jesus, he actually decides to stay on the cross. You know, on the cross, that he didn't have this overwhelming, emotional, feelings for you of love. He didn't go, oh, you guys are yelling at, oh, you guys are so cute. No. It is despite of the feeling that he's holding on. And he's saying, I'm willing to stay on the cross so that you don't have to fail, that you don't have to die. Listen, I know this whole thing, it's not easy, it's not difficult, it's not comfortable. But again, look at Jesus. He has taken a major step forward to you. Will you take one step, small step towards him? I don't know where you are in your spiritual walk. Whether you have been actually walking away from Jesus, or maybe this whole church thing is new for you, or this whole religion thing is new for you, or you have been trying to make steps forward and you have been discouraged. Be wise. Be mature. Stop looking at yourself. Look to God, who's making the biggest step forward to us. Let's go into time of prayer.